Okay, my camera cut out on me. Why, I don't know, so this will probably have to be broken up into a couple of parts. But anyway, as I was saying, this is Pearl Street right here, and then we go on to the first rail crossing, and this is the intersection of Mill Street and the Pere Marquette Railway, but now it's CSX. And you had the streetcar tracks intersecting right at the intersection of the rail line. And then, as you can see, we go along here to, this is where the Pere Marquette Railway Depot still stands today. There's the crossing, and then we go along here to Liberty Street, and we're following Mill. There's Spring Street right there, and this is around where the Baptist Church still remains. Now we come to Main Street, and it hangs right on Main. And now we're going to go down to Mill Street again, which is right here, and goes down Main towards the downtown area. Now this is again Oak Street, which is Starkweather, so that's the intersection of Starkweather and Main. It's kind of interesting. You can see some of the names of the old families in Plymouth. There's the Huff property, and here's there's a Starkweather property, quite a few. There's the H. Purdy property, Petra House, Shattuck, that was a family friend there. And then we're going to go down Main Street to, we're getting close to the Markham Air Rifle building now. Again, you can see some of the other names of, there's the J.D. McLaren property. That's where we had the terrible fire years ago. Too bad we lost that building. This is where the air rifle factory was, the Markham. And then there's the notorious Main Street crossing. So at that time, you had the streetcar crossing the rail tracks right on Main Street. And then we go down to towards the city center. We're getting close to the high school, and again you can see a lot of the old families. There's one of the Peck family members. There's Church Street, and then it forks off. Now I'm going to kind of speed up and go on the other side of this map a bit. Here's Main Street, and then it hangs a right onto Penniman. Now the map, it doesn't show Penniman, but this is Penniman right here. And here we have the theater. And as you can see, the tracks run very close along to this is Kellogg Park here. They run very close to Kellogg Park, so you could just hang out in the park and hop on the streetcar line, and away you go to Wayne or Detroit or Northville. And then we see it going down Ann Arbor Trail. Here on the map they call it Ann Arbor Street, but it's actually Ann Arbor Trail. And then lastly, and I'm going to speed up here again one more time, here is Ann Arbor Trail, going towards the intersection of this old Pere Marquette line is now CSX. And then again there's Mill, it crossed Mill, and then it goes off on its way to Wayne and beyond. So that I wanted to show you these because I wanted to show folks that this really happened, and there was really a very viable solution to both parking and transportation problems in the city of Plymouth. And I'm showing you that because, let me just get the camera back up here. With all this talk lately about parking trouble in downtown Plymouth, and rail crossing delays on Main Street and Farmer, and towards the east side of town and in Old Village, it seems like the City Commission's solution to this problem is to put the cart before the team of horses while the horses are sticking in mud. And that's really foolish. Their solution, from what I can see, seems to be, in order to solve the parking problem, well, let's just get more liquor licenses in downtown Plymouth, and that way we have an excuse to build more parking lots and have more bars and bring in more people from outside of town, and then again we have more parking problems as a result, so then we have to build more parking lots and expand the downtown out further and further and further and turn Plymouth, or a big chunk of it, into one giant downtown area, and have it as the servicing downtown section of the entire township and even Canton. I think that would be a big mistake for a lot of reasons. If that's the path of the city, if that's really what's going to happen, so be it. However, before the city does this kind of development, the first thing they should do, instead of spending city taxpayer money on hiring attorneys to hijack liquor licenses from people who are holding them in escrow, which is what the city is doing right now, and there's an extensive discussion about this very subject on the Facebook group called Plymouth, Canton, Northville Politics and History. Much of this is discussed on that group, and also in some of the articles I've done for the Observer in the past. But before the city does that, they need to solve the infrastructure problem first, and then start talking about all of this expansion, which I think is a mistake. But if the solution to the problem is to bring in more bars, more liquor licenses, bring more congestion downtown for an excuse to build parking lots, and then you're just going to have the same problem that was expressed in this letter 70 years ago. So try to solve this problem first. It's my understanding Kurt Heisey, who was township supervisor, he had the same job as George Starkweather did. He's on some form of a regional transportation board. What has he done? What has he done? Now, my other point is this. Now, I'm not saying that Plymouth Township and Wayne and Northville should go hog wild and start building a streetcar line or a modern day light rail transit system, although it would be nice. But my point is this. Despite all the regulations today and the cost for infrastructure, in 1898, when Plymouth's population was not more than 2,000, they got it done. They got this done, and it worked. It worked great for 30 years. And in a historical context, this document and these efforts of the Detroit Urban Railway put really every community like Plymouth to shame, to think that people back in the late 1800s could accomplish something like this with very little, if any, governmental help. And they got it done in a couple of years. So before you do the liquor licenses, I think it's important for any city planning to go on before you make decisions about all of this major development. Solve the infrastructure problem first. That should be the #1 priority of the Plymouth City Commission, not hiring lawyers to hijack liquor licenses and spending all of those resources on that. See what you can do to get some federal funding for the crossing problem. See if it's possible. And even if it's not possible to build a streetcar line, a modern rail system line right away, alternatives such as a good, solid, comprehensive mass transit system, including bus service. What would be wrong with continuous bus service from Plymouth to Plymouth to Northville to Wayne and throughout Plymouth that runs every 15 minutes? You wouldn't need as many parking spaces downtown for people to shop. That's one solution. Light rail is another solution. Building a parking structure in back of City Hall instead of ripping down the city center and ruining the historic culture of the town. There are a lot of other options, and the liquor license is probably the last thing that the city should be worried about. So that's what I wanted to say. There's probably going to be a part 4. I had to break this up into 2 parts because the camera shut off, but there's one more part I wanted to add. I was looking for a document about the streetcar itself and what it was called. It was an article in the Ford Motor Company newspaper that my grandfather was cited talking about the history of it. But other than that, I wanted to get this up on YouTube as soon as I could. So I hope you enjoy it, and I hope it gives you some good information, and thanks very much for listening in.